Okay. Just from, thinking it was on Zoom. So I
Oh,
told
okay,
you
yeah.
down here.
I had sent it out because
Yeah, that she said
Friday,
she had.
matter of fact, let me close that Zoom out.
Okay.
Y'all won too, by one, I think.
One.
Who, you guys played the Texans?
No, the Tennessee Titans.
Titans.
Yeah. Dallas did their thing, didn't
In the rain.
they? Yeah.
You know what that game reminded me
Oh, I
of?
didn't see what.
I'm dating myself here with age, but when Prince sang Purple Rain at
Purple
halftime in the rain and it
Yeah,
was raining so
yeah.
hard, that's what kind of game that was last night.
Didn't you do that at the Super Bowl? Was it the? Yeah, that was good.
That was my favorite of him anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna make you a copy and I can
Okay.
make Ms.
Ms.
Williams
Williamson.
as
Okay.
well. I use the student data worksheet when I go through and.
Okay. Oh, Ms. Williamson. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Quick question, sir. Tell me your name.
My name is Eldridge Moses.
Moses, okay. Mr. Moses, is he going back to Heights? Okay, was he at Clean or you zoned for Clean?
Shoemaker.
I mean Shoemaker. Shoemaker, right?
Okay.
Is he on transfer at Heights? Okay. Okay, cause in our system, it's showing Shoemaker, but we saw that he came from Heights, so that's why I was trying to figure out.
Okay.
So he's going back to Heights. Okay, so.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming in this morning. I appreciate it. And, Mr. Moses, you know Ms. Herrera, building principal.
He doesn't,
Ms. Williamson is our assistant principal here, and I'm Jennifer Washington, the hearing officer. And I'll be conducting Kylan Moses's placement review this morning. And what we'll do, Mr. Moses, so that you are aware of the format, I'm solely gonna look at your son's attendance, discipline, and grades since he's been here. And then we'll make a determination on sending him back to campus if those are satisfied. These ladies will talk to you about the expectations when he goes back, and as well as his some of the goals I think you guys normally set up with the kids, but he's not present this morning.
Okay.
But we'll talk to you about all of that once we're done with this. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Today is September 11th, 2023, and this is a placement review for Kylan Moses, and I show that he is a 16-year-old 11th grade student currently assigned to Gateway High School. Kylan is not present for his placement review. However, he is represented this morning by his father, Eldridge Moses. It's the D for me, I'm sorry about that. Eldridge Moses is present in person this morning. Present from Gateway High School, we have Ms. Herrera, the building principal, and we also have Pamela Williamson, who is our assistant principal at Gateway High School. My name is Jennifer Washington, district hearing officer. And Ms. Herrera, what I'd like to look at this morning, if you don't mind, give me 1 second here. Got you down. There we go. And this is what I'm showing so far, Mrs. Herrera. I show that Kylan was placed in the alternative school back in May, on May 22nd, 2023 for controlled substance. He actually enrolled at the alternative school here on August the 14th, 2023. And if you don't mind, Ms. Herrera, can you just kind of summarize what his, disposition has been since he's been here, his attendance, if you can address that, and if not, I have it in front of me as well. Looks like he's making some very good grades, he's made great progress since he's been here. And of course, if he's had any referrals since he's been enrolled here.
Okay, actually, he's been a very outstanding student. We haven't had any problems at all with your son. He did have a few, maybe, I don't know if it's tardies or first period, a couple late, coming late, but we still let those days count because it was, just one out of the 7 class periods. He was our our student Phoenix of the Week, 2 weeks ago, which means that he was showing some good character traits for our values here on campus. And me, honestly, I haven't had any concerns at all about your son's behaviors or anything grade-wise, attendance-wise. I think he may have even emailed me last night, I'm not sure. But I didn't put it together at that time because I go through so many of them every Sunday night. But other than that, behavior-wise, it's all the above. Is just he has been outstanding. I have no concern. Ms. Williamson is the disciplinarian, so she would know if he had any discipline.
No, I didn't have any concerns with him, to be honest. He comes in, does what he has to do, get to class, and that does reflect on his grades.
Okay, and for the record, I'm just going over his grades. I show a chemistry of a grade of 93. Journalism 1, he has an 85. Statistics, he shows a 77, and understand, Mr. Moses, statistics is a very, very hard class. So 77, if he pulls that up to a B, that's good for statistics. But you know your son better than any of us. U.S. history, I show that he has a 96. And I'm going faster than I'm typing. And in English 3, he has a 93. So at this time, as hearing officer, I do show that he is eligible to return back to his home campus. He's satisfied our 3 criteria, which would be grades, discipline, and attendance. No referral since he's been enrolled. Let me make sure I get that. And I did capture what you said, Mrs. Herrera, that he was Phoenix Student of the Week. So where we are right now, I am going to recommend that this student be returned back to his high school. I know that his home campus is Shoemaker, but he is on approved transfer to Harker Heights High School. Now, Mr. Moses, this morning, what will need to happen so that you can get your son re-enrolled back on his home campus, Harker Heights High School? Our registrar will need to drop him from this campus this morning. Ms. Herrera, can that be retros back to Friday?
Yes,
so
it
that
is.
he can enroll today?
Yes, actually, that was her calling me. I had already spoken with Miss Medina, the registrar office. Can you give us till about 8:45 to register him? You're taking him today?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so normally the way the process is, yes, it will be backdated to Friday because he can't be enrolled on 2 campuses on the same day. So we're gonna backdate it to the 8th, and then he can go today. She will contact them. If she has not already done so, like I said, she just called me. She probably was telling me she contacted them. Normally, they work electronically to where she take the withdrawal paper and she fax it over to the home campus so they know that the students have successfully completed. So she's in the process of getting that done. So give us a few minutes to get that done. And I think they register until 10 o'clock or 10:30 at Heights.
So he should be able to enroll today?
Yeah, yes. He said he's okay waiting until at least 8:45 just to give us that little cushion to communicate with each other. And then he'll meet with his assistant principal there, and they'll go over his probation. And his probation will run for 45 days, which means he'll be on district probation until November the 28th.
Okay. And what I usually do with the students before they leave, I talk with them about, and this is going to be his letter. This is kind of same thing what Ms. Herrera just told you. And so he will be on district probation till November 28th. which is that 45-day. Also, he, and this is kind of the same thing as well as what Ms. Guerrero said, between 8:30 and 10 is the best time to register. Now, if by chance there's an infraction between today and that November 20th, he could be subjected to come back, with 60 days. And so, and like I said, I usually tell the students, make sure that you do everything you need to do. Do not have play around, horseplay, anything like that. So I talk to the students, and since he's not here, I'm just kind of telling you usually what I tell them so that they won't come back. Okay? And then I'm going to give this to you to give to him because it's for him. It's not to take to the school. Okay?
And also, Mr. Moses, when you enroll him back at Heartlands High School, don't be alarmed. His assistant principal should greet him. As the ladies pointed out, the district probation, but more importantly, they're going to set him up on his GAEP transition to make sure it's a smooth transition back to campus, which would include him selecting himself a mentor. He'll set academic and behavioral goals for himself. As I pointed out, his grades are in very good standing, and I hope he continues on that path. And that pretty much sums it up, unless you have questions for us.
Yeah, I do have some questions.
Okay.
So like I told you before, when you did my son's hearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I told you my son didn't do this, right? And
Right,
you
you
didn't
did.
believe me, okay? Let me finish, okay?
I hadn't said a
I
word.
know, but I just want to finish what
Go
I'm
ahead,
saying.
sir.
Okay. You said you didn't believe my son because again you found him guilty, okay? And you told me that there was nothing that you could do at your level to overturn this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you told me and my son, that's why you had a mental breakdown because of stuff that you told him, okay? That someone at the next level would hear his voice. The things that I addressed to you and the things that he said that you reassured him of an appeal process where someone would hear his voice. So when I told you that you lied to my son and me, that's what I'm talking about, because in fact, there's nobody that's going to hear his voice. That's why I got to Dr. Faye, okay? I've been going through this whole process. You're putting my son on some kind of plan, like he doesn't have a structure at home, like he doesn't have discipline at home, like he's a problem child. So the same thing that you did to TJ, okay? By allowing this to happen to my son without hearing a voice could have prevented what happened to TJ from actually happening. And I just out of curiosity question, right?
Sure.
Why did y'all why does my son get a police report when he got planted with drugs on him, but other students aren't getting police reports filed on them when they've planted drugs? Is that something that is determined based off of the kid, or is there a policy in the district that someone else can choose to follow or not follow?
Okay. I'd like to address everything that you've said. Number one, I have not lied to you. Your son was afforded an appeal, and I recall your hearing distinctly. You were adamant that someone planted the drugs on your son. If I recall correctly, there were 2 vape pens in his backpack. Your son received charges from the Killeen ISD Police Department, I have no control over that, Mr. Moses. So what I told you during the hearing was not a lie. I told you that the next step, and I encouraged you to appeal. I said, advocate for your child. The appeal goes through our deputy superintendent. I have no bearing on that. So no, I'm not lying to you. I'm very transparent. The next level after this hearing would be a district appeal through our deputy superintendent, which you called me this summer, and I reminded you again. And I even told our deputy superintendent, because you were past the 7 days, to please hear your appeal. So no, I didn't lie to you. I gave you the exact steps for the appeal. Now, when you talk about the difference between your son's hearing, and I'm very much aware of the other situation, I didn't host the other hearing. The other hearing was hosted by our alternate hearing officer, Mr. Rushton. There were distinct differences in the hearings. Your son was placed based on the fact that he received charges for the PG2 group for the vape pens. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I can go back and even listen to the last hearing because I have it saved. If the charges were dropped, I was going to remove him. I don't even know if he's gone to court for it or not. I have no idea.
Did you look into it?
That's not my job, Mr. Moses.
Okay, I got
That's
it.
not my job to investigate and look and see if the charges were dropped.
I
You
got
as
it.
parent, your responsibility was to bring me back if the court did dismiss it. you were to bring me back the paperwork and I would revisit it. I've done that several times before.
Okay,
But the only reason, and I wanna be very clear, you're recording,
yeah,
I'm recording. I wanna be very clear. I'm not a liar, number one. I told you exactly the steps that were necessary, and I know I did. I told you to go through the deputy superintendent for your review. You received a letter from my office that also told you your right to an appeal. So did that not happen?
So what you told me, right? I did send the appeal on time. It wasn't past the 7 days, and I have email proof of that because obviously I keep very good records and I don't play about this stuff, right? So what I said was you lied to me and my son when you said that someone at the next level would hear what he has to say. The things that he's saying would matter to someone at the next level. That, in fact, man, was a lie, and I have it
Sir, I
on
know
tape.
for a fact I did not go through your hearing and say someone on the next level is gonna hear what your son has to say.
Yes, ma'am, you did.
I said you have a right to an appeal.
Right, where someone would hear his voice, because the things
And that
that,
is the deputy
the things that,
superintendent.
okay, but I'm telling you, that's not true, ma'am.
Okay, sir, but what bearing do I have on the
Because if you
deputy
don't know,
superintendent?
don't say that stuff to people, okay?
That is how it happens.
Okay, but I'm telling you, it's not.
Well,
Because I have
don't know
I have it on email, and I've been recording everything throughout this whole process. And so I'm just letting you know, and I do, and like, if you like, I can send you the email thread so you can see that, oh yeah, he did, and he spent all this time talking about an appeal from Miss Gabriel, I think her name is, to Miss Forsyth, and nobody has a clue.
Ms. Forsyth isn't your next level.
Oh,
Your
I
next level
understand
was
that.
the deputy superintendent for the appeal.
Whoever reached out to me when I emailed them is who I corresponded with. And
And
they
whatever you put
escalated
in
me
the
to
email-
Mrs. Forsyth.
Whatever you put in the email, and I've had students who have done appeals who have written their own appeals. She does read it, to my understanding, and I'm not talking about Ms. Forsyth, I'm talking about Megan Bradley,
Yes.
the deputy superintendent.
She did not,
So did she overturn your appeal?
she didn't grant us an appeal. She said that she sent me a letter, okay, and I can pull it up, but I don't want to interrupt my recording. She sent me a letter that said my son's appeal was denied, okay, because the only thing you can appeal is procedural errors. There was no opportunity for my son to vindicate himself or clear his name. There was no opportunity for me as a parent who raises good kids to vindicate myself in my parenting. There was none of that, okay? And so I went through the process. I told Holcut, do not go through the process because I've been lied to. I've been dealing with this since the end of May, and it was the beginning of school, okay, before I even got responses and answers. And that's absolutely ridiculous, okay? Especially because my son goes to the same school, and when a student that was set up the same way that my son was set up with 2 THC vapes, and then they're telling him like, well, TJ got to come back to school. Well, how come TJ gets to come back to school? And so, like I told you when we walked in here, that caused my son to have a mental breakdown because he was sitting there in that hearing when you reassured him that this is the way it goes. This is the policy that we have to follow, and that his voice will be heard by the person above you, like you said, okay? But that never happened, all right? And the problem is that, hey, if you're gonna tell somebody that stuff and you're not for certain, I wouldn't recommend telling them that stuff because that does come off as seeming like a lie. Because when I sent the emails and followed through, and if you don't believe me, like I said, I can send you can go ask Ms. Gabriel, whoever, to see the email threads and to see that, oh yeah, he did email her several times. And in fact, not one time did
Who is Ms. Gabriel?
whoever the deputy, I don't have this sitting right in front of me, but
Megan
if I,
Bradley.
Mrs. Bradley,
Okay.
you know who I'm referring to. I apologize, I don't have the information sitting in front of me.
No, don't apologize.
But Mrs. Bradley, okay, did not grant my son an appeal, did not hear his voice, did not take anything that he has to say, did not take anything into consideration because she didn't even grant him the opportunity to clear his name, to vindicate himself. And I remember very clearly when I expressed that This is a big problem on the campus because Harker Heights High School is going about handling this wrong. And instead of chastising and hanging kids to the cross like innocent kids like TJ, whose whole life has been ruined now because of this, because nobody wanted to stand in the gap and protect these kids and hear their voice. You got to say, you know what? This could cause a child mental anguish. This could cause a child mental health issues when they're crying out for help, saying they didn't do something, and the people that should be listening to them, someone in place, nobody listens to them. In fact, there's not a person in place that's going to hear their voice. That's exactly why I've reached all the way up to Dr. Faye. Because again, if I didn't follow through with the process by trying to be an example to my young black man who came out of a 6'6" black man, and the doctor said he's going to be taller than me. So guess what? That means you have to learn that you have to deal with things a certain kind of way, because people are going to automatically assume that you're an aggressive, angry black man because you decide to run and raise your voice and run and bring attention to something's not right. I bought into this because that's what we raise and tell our kids. I'm a mentor in this community myself, and I coach kids, and that's what we coach these kids and tell them, to buy into the process, to trust the process. That, listen, you got to do due process, because if you don't, okay, someone can come back and say, well, did you do due process? And if you say no, they're going to tell you, go do due process, okay? So of course, me being that example to my black man that I'm raising, I'm giving him this example, and at the end of every word, unfortunately, Ms. Washington, that people are saying and giving, it's not true. It's just simply not true. And I apologize for calling you a liar, but it does come off to seem like a lie when you tell someone that someone in this type of situation who's like crying out that I didn't do this, just like TJ, screaming out I didn't do this. I laid the exact scenario into you why my son didn't do this and how he got set up, and nobody believed me. Nobody wanted to hear me until it happened to another student the exact same way. And when I tell you I've been through the process since May, okay, and I'm still dealing with it to this day, all right? And to find out things like, well, at Harker Heights High School, I guess when a student has drugs on them on campus, it's determined whether or not a student has a police report filed on them or not.
That's part of it. You're right about that.
And again, that's discrimination, because there's no felony that is different. It's just like sinning, right? If I have a gun on campus, it's a felony. If I bring drugs on campus, it's a felony, okay? And so when I look at a felony, how the school handles a felony should be the same. It should not be determined, especially when I get to your level, district level hearing as a new parent who's never done this before. But thank God I'm educated, and thank God I've been blessed with the patience that you wouldn't believe to still be here today and ain't turned up or cussed out one person or done anything crazy, okay? These are the examples that I have to leave from my son, because guess what? That's why I didn't bring him here today, because I didn't want something to be said. And then you don't know what these students are talking about. You don't know what these things have been said and been going on. It's just been magnified and magnified. I don't want my son to be exposed to any more things that might cause him to have a mental breakdown, okay? And so that's why I didn't bring him here today, because of those reasons. But again, I apologize for calling you a liar, but it does seem like someone is not telling the truth. And when I'm sitting in a position...
Let me just say this, Mr. Moses, please. There are distinct differences in your son's hearing and the Holcutt's hearing. And I shouldn't even be saying Holcutt in this hearing, because this is not their hearing, but just bear with me. I'm gonna say this again, and I think you will figure it out. Your son was charged with a felony charge for the vape pens.
That was dropped.
You were told to bring those drop charges to me.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. If you weren't told.
I was not told that.
Because I do remember your hearing. Anytime I have adamant parents like you, and I applaud you for advocating for your son. It's in our student code of conduct book that I have the right to go back and review charges. And you're not the first parent who said, my kid didn't do this. And I tell them, bring me the charges, because that's my support to overturn it. As hearing officer, my first responsibility is to uphold the book, but I am very, very neutral. I would not be in this position if I did not love children, and I want to see them done the right way. Your son carried a felony charge when he came to me for the hearing. there is a distinct difference between your son and the other family that we're talking about, especially when it comes to the charges, and that's all I will say. Okay? Now, Mrs. Bradley, our deputy superintendent, she is the next level of an appeal. I did not lie to you about that. She does have the right to hear whatever you are saying in regards to the situation that got your son here. Sometimes she overturns my recommendations. Most of the time she upholds them because I'm following what's in the Student Code of Conduct book. Because your son carried the felony charge, that was a mandatory placement.
I understand that.
Okay?
He carried a felony charge because.
Had he not come to me with a felony charge for it, I would have treated it as tobacco. He would have been back on campus.
Okay.
The laws have changed though with the
Since the
e-cigarettes.
first, that's
with the
why.
e-cigarettes.
That's why I'm
So
in
now
this
even
for
the
it.
nicotine, I cannot send them back to campus because part of my job as hearing officer is to uphold Chapter 37.
Right.
Last year, your felony charges for the vape pens, they were supposed to be expelled. I only expelled 2 students because they appeared to be selling. They had a large amount on them. All of my other vapors, I made sure I placed them here. I took heat for that. The law, but I already knew I was doing it right by kids. The law changed this year, they come here, and I'm glad to see that. What I hate is that we're still writing felony charges for these doggone vape pens that they can purchase right there at 7-Eleven. I have advocated to Chief Kimball, when he was the chief of police for Killeen, that this is not right. We have these vape pens right here at 7-Eleven, and yet and still our children are receiving a felony charge, not a minor in tobacco, in possession of tobacco, which would be a misdemeanor. They're getting a felony charge. That concerns me. I continue to advocate for that. The only reason your son was placed, and I'll say it again, and I'm not wavering on it, is because he did carry the felony charge.
And I understand he carried a felony charge based off of a police report that was put together on my son, right? But at the campus level, and again, this is beyond you, right? At the campus level, someone decided not to do the same thing to another student. There's a major problem.
That's not, you're not speaking correctly, sir. Remember, the other student did come forward for a hearing.
Right.
So when you say that the campus decided to treat the other
No,
student
no.
differently, what are you talking about?
Okay, you gotta-
Okay, maybe I'm confused.
if one student did something, okay, to get out of here, and every student gets this, right? But then my son gets ready to leave and he doesn't get this, wouldn't you say something's wrong?
Get what?
This, we're breaking it down to this, whatever's in here that she just told me, okay?
So-
If you give this to every student when they leave here, if for some reason this wasn't given to a student, wouldn't that alarm a bell to you? Or yes or
That
no?
would be I'm
Okay.
wondering what happened with the
Exactly.
procedure.
So there we go. Why my son has been police reported felony charged at Harker Heights High School, but the procedure wasn't followed the same way with another student. So again, that comes off like, okay.
Sir, we have a chief of police.
Ma'am, I understand that. I'm not,
Okay.
you're trying to relate it to something else. I'm relating it
Well, no,
to the fact that
I'm trying to bring it back full circle to this.
right, if you go to Harker Heights High School, right, just like if I come to DAEP, and it's very relatable, if she gives this to every student, that's her policy, that's the procedure, right? So for whatever reason, she doesn't give it to a student, is there something wrong there?
Yeah, are you talking about the charges? Is that the
I'm
communication you're
talking.
trying
No,
to
I
make?
keep talking about the police report that was filed on my son.
Well,
okay?
right, the charges.
Because, right, okay.
Yes.
So the charges that were filed on my son were filed on my son at campus.
Yeah.
Okay, for some determining factor, but it wasn't charged to another student at
Okay,
campus
that's what I'm
for
saying.
another
Thank
determining
you.
factor.
All right.
That's what I've repeatedly said. So that again is a problem. Now you're talking about the charges being dropped. Like I said, when you told me that the next step is beyond you, right? To email DAEP appeals, and please go back and listen to it, because if you don't think I've listened to this appeal 500 times, I've listened to it 500 times. You do this every day, so you have to deal with, I only got one thing I gotta deal with, okay? So I've listened to this 1,000 times. There was never if the charges get dropped, bring them back. It was, this isn't the place for that, and I understand that you're advocating for your son, but I'm not the one who makes the final decision on this. You have to email DAEP within 7 days at DAEP.appeals, whatever, .k, and email and say you would like to. So I have that correspondence. I did those things. And if you don't think sitting here that I didn't email and say, look it, the state of Texas didn't even want to pick up the charges on this, okay? I did do that.
Okay.
All right? But for some whatever reason, and this is why, like I said, the example that I'm trying to set for my sons and my daughters and my kids is that, you know, standing in the void right now, because again, I said I do a lot of mentorship and take care of a lot of kids. And I told you, if this could happen to my son, it could happen to another child. And the same exact thing happened to the same exact way to another child. But see, now here's the mental health issue, because my son does not understand why he was whisked out of school, thrown in here, no matter what, but within a week's time, TJ was placed back at school. Do you think I told him the stuff about the police report? That's part of the reason why I didn't bring him here today. Because if he understands that, man, in fact, someone who was supposed to do something a standard way for everybody, in fact, treated me differently, which got me persecuted and hung to the cross, which ruined my life for the first couple of weeks of school, because I went to football all summer long, and I went and got up every morning and did every workout. And then someone that even Hokut, because again, I can show you, me and Hokut, we've been in full conversation about this. We've been in full, because the same exact thing happened to his son. And we both feel the same exact person set my son up to get him out the way, and now set his son up to get him out the way. And it's just the sports world. But if it wasn't sports, and again, you might not understand that, but that's how we feel.
No, I'm an athlete, and I'm sorry that all of that happened. Because of this, I can tell you a whole lot of things are going to be different.
Oh, I know.
Dr. Faye.
I know,
And I'm
because
grateful of
I've
that.
been talking to Dr.
I'm very
Faye.
grateful of that.
And
But sir, I'm looking at your son's record from last year, and I did uphold it, and it's exactly what I remembered. The 2 vape pens that he had in the backpack, he adamantly said that they were not his backpack.
and he passed a drug test in front of the vice principal and the principal at the school and the campus police officer, because if you're using vape, if you have vape pens on you, you probably use them, right? And THC goes in your system for 30 days. And you can buy these vape pens over the counter, okay, and then bring them in school, and it's an enhanced felony because you have it on campus, and that's the...
Well, no, it's an enhanced felony according to the police department because it's highly concentrated.
Well, no. I'm like for example, when I say enhanced, if I'm a grown adult and I'm off campus with a vape on me, it's a felony, right? But just like a gun, if I have a gun and it's not legal, it's a felony. But if I have a gun on campus that's not legal, it's escalated. Just like if I have a vape that's on campus, you know, it's not legal, so it's escalated. My crimes for bringing drugs on campus when you know you're not supposed to have. Campuses are drug-free zones, and so it's just escalated. That's all I'm referencing.
Okay, but I'm just making you aware. The regular marijuana carries misdemeanor, 4 ounces or lower. It's what I'm told from the police.
But we're talking about vapes.
The liquid vape pens always carry a felony.
I know. That's what we're talking
whether
about.
Whether you're on campus or at Walmart, they always carry a felony.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, I'm very sorry, Mr. Moses, that you've gone through what you've gone through, and I've been as transparent with you as I can. I told you the process. We may not agree on that, and I'm okay with that. But I know for a fact, I look at every individual student. I've taken a lot of heat in this position for doing right by kids. Your son's situation, because of the felony charges that he was charged with, changed everything.
And again, I completely understand that. But
So,
the part that we're not seeing eye to eye on is the fact that when it happened to my son, for some reason it was handled differently than when it happened.
But
now,
that's not me. And
I didn't
I'm
say
not
that
gonna
was you. I didn't say that was
I'm
you.
not gonna say that the system is not flawed. You
I
brought
did
out
not
a
say
very
that.
good point.
I did not say it was you. The only thing I said is that you reassured me and my son
That he
at
would
our
have a
hearing
voice for
that he
the
would
people.
have a voice, and nobody,
And
so to me, you may need to check into the fact that, and if you'd like I said, I can send you the email thread. I can send you it so you can see
I believe you.
oh, he emailed him here, and then 2 days later, no response. 2 days later, you know how I got to Dr. Faye?
Mr. Moses, and I told you, You ended up calling Ms. Forsythe. She asked me to call you back, and I did.
Because I was told to
And
call
I
her.
contacted Ms. Bradley and I said, hey, this gentleman is trying to appeal. I have nothing to hide with
I did not say that you
I want
did.
you to
Well,
know what the process is. I don't like filling this campus up with kids.
I
But
understand
the
that.
only difference, and hear me if you don't hear anything else, your son was charged with a felony charge. And that is why he ended up here, because that felony charge, the day I held his hearing, was in effect.
I understand that. And again, the problem that I have, exactly like I stated several times, just like you stated, I know my son was charged with a felony charge. And like I said, you can go back and review. I said that plenty of times. My biggest problem is this is a felony we talking about. This is a felony we talking about. And if you think that I want my son to take a felony lightheartedly, no, I don't.
Did you hear what I said earlier?
Yes, I did. I'm just
I
telling
don't
you.
want any of our kids charged with felony. They're children.
I got that, but these aren't your children. This is my child that I'm dealing with. And so what I'm telling you is that, I don't want to take how another parent deals with a felony vape charge versus how I deal with a felony vape charge. It's two different things, okay?
But as an educator, I'm here to serve all children. I
I
don't
got
want
you.
any of our
I
children.
got you, but we're
hearing
talking
that.
about, I'm talking
I know
specifically.
you're talking about Kylie.
My
I get
child.
that.
I know we're not talking about my child. You're talking about your broad aspect. I'm talking about my child directly. So, the context is what I'm referring to. And I don't play because, again, it's a felony charge.
Yes.
And people will tell their child, oh, you're just a minor, and brush it off.
Not me.
Exactly, not me either. So that's why when my son, he had a big afro. Y'all seen my son, he doesn't have an afro because when he got charged and found guilty, we go through the same process that if I was to check you into jail that you got to face with, you don't get those freedoms. He had to pay the ultimate cost because nobody wanted to hear my son or my voice. And again, I'm not upset with you placing the blame on you because the system is flawed. All I'm saying is before you tell someone that their voice can be heard by the next person up, please make sure that next person up might be doing their job because they don't make you look good if they're not doing their job. And
Make me look good or her look good?
Make you look good. And again, because you're taking this the wrong way. If you're the one who tells me to go to the superior because they're going to do this, and this, and then I go to your superior like you told me to and they do not do this, and this, it makes you look bad, okay? And so that's all I'm referencing is please ask her, say, hey, because I can send you the email thread. You can ask her to look through the email thread. And you tell me that someone's going to be hearing my voice, and through email, you say, your son's appeal was denied. Now, I know that he was charged with a felony, but like I said, if you don't think that I emailed and said, hey, they didn't even pick up the charges against my son. The state of Texas did, and they said there was too much circumstantial evidence. And so why would I not? I did do that. But again, there's a flaw in the process that's not your fault, right? Where if those things are, we're going to persecute children to the cross like that, then somebody should be in place. If they're not picking up these cases to say, hey, they didn't pick up these cases because every child does not have a parent like my son has a parent. And so, like I said, I didn't just go through this process for my child. I went through this process because I deal with 600 to 800 kids mentoring and coaching a year. And if it can happen to my son, it can happen to one of them, just like it happened to TJ. And the first thing TJ did was call me. And I gave him the advice. I told him the truth. I told him everything that I went through. I told him none of this stuff that you're talking about matters because it doesn't. It doesn't matter that your son is having mental problems, that your family's put him on suicide watch. It doesn't matter to nobody that someone who's supposed to be protecting these kids, and I'm not saying it's you, but someone should be protecting these kids. And if they say they didn't do something, just like I told you, my son didn't do it because his stuff was in the locker room. And I told you there's a community and culture locker problem in the locker room. People's stuff is getting stolen. I told you Coach Edwards left. And this is why it was a problem. But instead, nothing was done. And I hope, after talking to Dr. Faye and been talking to her several times, like got her cell phone number about this kind of stuff, because in fact, I was 100% telling the truth. And look at what happened to TJ. And look at the fact that now his parents then graduated from a high school, then took pride in bringing their son to that high school, just so his son can go up in that school and be unprotected and then feel like he's at risk, to the point where they're fighting at football games and removing their son from and taking them to Cove. Well, does nobody care that that man and woman graduated from Harker Heights High School and they took some pride in raising their kids and bringing them to their alma mater just to have their kid keep the family name going? Does that not matter to anybody that has been ripped away from this boy now? It matters to me. And I don't want it to happen to another child in KISD. Not at all. Not that I'm associated with.
Well,
And
Mr.
so-
Moses, you definitely have been hurt, and again, as I told you, and I say it again, I'm sorry you had to go through all of this. I've said everything I can tell you legally, the difference
I know.
between yours versus the other student's situation, without going into that.
I know.
Even though I didn't host his hearing, I followed it. Sorry it happened. I don't like our kids getting tickets like just for whatever, just over and over, we're writing citations, these are children. Discipline does mean to teach, and part of teaching is sometimes when you do make a mistake, you help them to correct the mistake and get back on the right track. When it comes to my job, and I've explained it to you as clearly as I can, I am sworn to uphold the student code of conduct. Your student came to me, your child, not your student, Kylan came to me with charges pending.
Absolutely.
And that was the biggest thing ever.
And
Okay.
I don't take nothing away from
so-
that. It's-
Again, I don't like the charges being just lickety-split. Do we have kids out there who really do some bad stuff? You bet we do. And part of my job is to keep those kids from interfering with a child. His situation with the cake vape pens, those are nonviolent offenses. And I hate that we have to put them here, because the purpose of a DAEP are for our kids who really do some really crazy stuff. That's not the mentality of this district. And I'm not the district, I'm a part of the district, but in this position, I try my best to be as neutral and fair as I can to afford due process. That's part of my job. I want your voice to be heard. I was happy to host your placement review this morning. You went to the next level, which is way above me, a deputy superintendent. You're telling me this morning that I need to check her because she's not doing what she should do. Well, her boss is actually Dr. Faye.
Which I told him.
And I fall like so far beneath them, it's not even funny. I'm not even close to their level, okay? So I hear you, I hear your passion. You've handled yourself very professionally this morning, and I appreciate that. Your son is going back to Harker Heights High School. Please let him know I wish him the best of luck. I really do, and I sincerely mean that. I'm an athlete. I don't want to see him get derailed for something like this. He came to me and he only had one referral, and it was kind of,
Right.
okay?
So,
My determining factor, I go again, because I'll be able to tell anyone why I did what I did. He was carrying the charges,
and I completely
Okay.
understand.
and that's the bottom line. But I do appreciate you coming in. I hope you continue to work with youth.
I am.
I hope you do.
I just had to get through this today
Yes, sir.
because, as you know, Dr. Faye called you when I was at her office on Friday.
She did.
And this is why I'm here right now. And so just know, like I said, I'm not trying to act like you did a bad job. What I'm saying, just like
The
me.
system is flawed, and I've heard you loud and clear.
So I don't want to leave here and you think that I'm trying to.
No.
That's not
But
it.
Let me just assure you of this. The attention that this situation has brought to our district, there are several things going on right now to get it back on the track that it should be. And I applaud Dr. Faye. I support her 100%. She's a breath of fresh air,
I know.
okay? That hasn't been our prior leadership.
I know, but
Okay.
that's why I told Hocut, you can go to the media, but I told Dr. Faye when I first met her, advocating for Coach Bobbitt, that if I have an issue in the district, I'm gonna give her a fair one first.
Okay, good
Which
deal.
means I'm gonna do everything, express my concerns and my dissatisfaction
That's
with
fine, I
something,
take it,
so
I
forth and
take
so
it.
on, but it's nothing like I'm trying to bring nobody down or they tried to do this and that, but the thing is, just like you said, this is how bad the problem is, especially with this new law, that I can set the valedictorian up, and the valedictorian has no, you mean to tell me that, so trust me, I'm right there with Dr. Faye working on this stuff because it's kids
You are
that don't
saying
deserve this.
exactly what she has been told by me. With the posters and everything else up, I don't like it because it's a setup and it's gonna get somebody hurt. not just hurt like this, your son's been hurt by having his first few weeks of school here. I'm talking about physically
No.
hurt. And I've made it known.
Oh.
And I think I need to stop.
No, you
Because,
good,
I'm
cause
kind
I
of
know, cause
going
we
into an area
going
where I
down the
don't
same
really-
path that you just don't know who I've been talking to and things of that nature, what I know, because I'm telling you that I'm doing this for, my son had to be the sacrificial lamb in order for my Pandora box to open up and see that, okay, there's major flaws in this system, and again, being the example for my kids right now, that's what I'm doing, because I've been persecuted, I've been stereotyped, I've been all of these things, and not just my son, but the other kids that mentor me, when they say Coach Mo and they look up to me, when something like this is going on, I can be a voice of reason. I can help them understand, you know?
Yes,
And
sir.
so that's my goal, not to, just because you've been persecuted and your parents aren't smart like I'm smart, don't mean that you need to go hurt yourself. Doesn't mean that you need to go down this, like I said, my son had a mental breakdown,
And
okay?
again, I am very
And
sorry.
I raised a great son to have this happen to him out of my hands, and then to see my son have a mental breakdown, that's tough. So,
That is
but
tough.
I appreciate you hearing me out today, and I appreciate your decision. But I just wanted to just voice that one thing,
I'm glad you
that
said it
one
out.
thing,
No.
okay? Because I did
Keep
send that lady
advocating.
emails and communicate with her, and nobody even, nothing,
Keep
until.
advocating, because you're being heard and changes are being made.
That's right.
Communication this weekend, I already know what's in the works. Changes are coming,
Mhm.
and I applaud the changes.
Yeah,
So I know you don't know me very well. I'm getting to know you. You're very passionate, and like I said, you've done nothing but conduct yourself as a professional father coming in here. You haven't spoken disrespectfully. You're passionate, and I'm not intimidated by that. I applaud it.
I appreciate it.
So I'm sorry. That's and I know Dr. Faye has probably expressed it. If she has not,
She has.
I'm telling you, I'm sorry
She
that
is.
your son went through this because of how our system is. The charges, they're written willy-nilly,
I-
like 356 cases last year. Okay, so, I'm glad this went the way it did.
Me
I'm
too.
glad to hear what you had to say. I thank you for coming forward and staying the course of staying with what you did with Dr. Faye. She is listening. I tell you again, we have totally different leadership now, and I'm excited about it.
Me too.
I am. And that's all I have to say.
I appreciate your apology, and again, I hope, like I said, I just wanna make it clear, I wasn't trying to act like you don't do a good job, or, you know, demean the work that you put in to your profession. That's not,
No, I try
didn't
my
come off
best,
that way,
and I
so.
know I don't have it, all of my administrators are not on the up and up, I know that, and I'm so happy I'm on this level, I get to vet them out. So,
The register lady did just text me.
I'm gonna go ahead and end our hearing.
Okay, that you're good to go, if you decide to take them today.